Later on in the video, you're going to hear me refer to the fact that there was a lot of drama in getting this wall built and stood up. There was. I ended up doing the cut and the rough layout to make sure it would all fit in 2 hours. 2 hours on a weekday evening where I had a little bit of free time before most of my evenings filled up with activities and obligations. And so we came into the weekend thinking, hey, this is just going to go together really, really easy. Well, little did we know that something that should have probably taken 2 hours, nailing it all together with an air nailer and standing it up and securing it, took all weekend, all Friday and all Saturday of all the spare time that I had. I ended up going to go get nails for my air nailer and went to get 3.5-inch construction nails, 21 degree. You'll hear me refer later to, I'm not sure what the other degree of guns are. It's a 21 and a 30 for rough nailers, rough end nailers. Anyway, so we got there, found a box that was fit 21 degree nailers, and ended up being 3.5-inch nails that I wanted. And the box was open. It looked like a couple of sleeves were missing, so I pulled it out, got the box behind it that was sealed, took it up to the register, bought it, drove all the way home to find out that they were 2-inch nails. So I had to drive all the way back and exchange those, get the right nails, come all the way back, and then begin putting the wall together. However, as I began to put the wall together, I started having air compression issues with my air compressor. It just seemed to want to quit, and it was really struggling on refilling, and I couldn't figure out why. I had some problems with it when I was doing a remodel earlier in the house, doing all the flooring about 9 months ago. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just the heat, because it is blazing hot this weekend. It's real feel into the mid 90s. It's going to be highs in the low 70s, mid 60s, with lows into the upper 40s coming into the rest of this week. And it's been humid. It has just been blazing hot. And I thought, well, maybe it's just the heat. And so I went ahead and said, you know what? I'm done for the day. I'm kind of exhausted myself. It seems like everything I've tried to do to get this job done today just isn't working well. It was about 4 o'clock. We had a football game for a junior higher we wanted to go see that night. And so we said, we're just going to stop, put everything away, get cleaned up, eat, and then go watch the game and then come back the next day. So I ended up plugging things in this morning, and everything worked at first. But then after I got my first set of nails put in, the compressor started doing the same thing. Lo and behold, the compressor died. So I called my brother, who is a custom cabinet maker, and said, hey, I can't afford a $3,000 compressor, let alone a $500 compressor. Can you recommend a compressor? I'm on my way to Home Depot now. And so he recommended a compressor that we've used to finish this job. It's working well. But again, heat of the day, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I need to go and get the rest of the wood for the rest of the walls around the shed. And so we're going to do that today. But again, it is real feel of probably mid 90s. It's pushing 89 right now. And I can't imagine real feels 95. It feels like it's 100 degrees out with the humidity today. So anyway, just want to give this kind of preamble, in a sense, to episode 3 here. And so let's go ahead and we will go back in time, and we will try to piece together as well as we can all the filming I did amid all the frustration. Well, hello YouTube family, and thank you for joining us for our 3rd episode of our shed build. Today and over the next several days, we're going to be working to assemble and put together and to raise the front wall of our shed. Now, I know several of you are going to respond immediately, Brian, why is that going to take you so many days to assemble and put up the front wall of your shed? That should just take maybe 2 hours, an afternoon at the most. I would agree, but remember, number one, I'm just an amateur. I've never built a shed before, and I'm doing this for the very first time. Number two, this is not what I do for a living. I just get, when I have an hour here or an hour there, I take the time to work on these things and get them completed. YouTube is not flying over my house, dropping bags of cash with which for me to live off of. I'm just have a small channel, not even 200 subscribers yet, working to just kind of share with you all what I'm doing, and hopefully we can learn from each other. And so again, it's going to take several days. Today, what I want to do is to double check all my measurements. I want to start beginning to cut all my lumber and to lay out the front wall of my shed before I start doing any nailing or any screwing or any raising up of that front wall. I want to make sure that it's done exactly the way it's supposed to. So let's go ahead and let's go on out to my truck, which is going to be both my cut shop and my workbench. And let's take a look at the plans and talk about what I'm going to be doing next. If you remember, in our first video, we said that we had gotten some plans off the internet at Construct 101. Now, while these aren't the most complete plans in the world, they do give us a general guide and idea for how we want to build and assemble our shed. Here, they have a front wall of the shed that we got the plans for, but there's some changes. There's going to be no door on the front. The door is rather going to be on the side, and the window that we have is going to be much bigger. We're going to have a sliding window with a rough opening of 36 inches high, 48 inches wide, and we're not going to put it center, but off to the left side here. The reason why is for the right side of the shed, we're leaving blank so that I might end up putting some solar panels on the front here with the wires going through, and then this side and front portion of the shed on the inside will house all the electrical hardware that will convert the solar energy into the current that we need to run heating mats and lights, as well as a heating element in order to keep our seed starts warm. And the south-facing window will provide the natural light that we're going to need for our seed starts. And so we've had to modify this somewhat. This was originally built to be approximately an 8-foot front face. We're going with a 10-foot front face. Now, I know that seems huge. We'll explain down the road why 10 feet and not 8. And then the back wall will be 8 feet. And then if you remember, we're going to be going past the back wall with the roof line so we can put large equipment underneath the overhang, such as cement mixers and mowers and other large equipment like that to keep them out of the weather. And again, that door will be over here on the side. So we've had to do some modification here. Instead of 7 foot 4.5 inches, we're going to be having 117 inches for our height, and making allowance for the bottom plate and the top plate, which is 1.5 inches each, which is 3 inches total, which when you add that up to 120 inches will give us our 10 feet. So enough of the talking. Again, if you would like a link to Construct 101, you can just go to our first video, click in the link below. Maybe I'll re-put that link in our video description on this one. And they've just got some basic things to help you figure out how you're going to do this. But again, because we're modifying this and there's no door in the front, we have to kind of do this all out first, and it's going to be smart to do a layout before we start hammering or screwing anything together. So let's go ahead and go to those measurements. Now I've just got a rough layout of the sides, the bottom plate, and the top plate. Obviously this is not square yet. I haven't squared anything up. We're just doing a layout. You're going to want to double stud the ends or both sides of your wall because they're going to join up with a wall that's going to be perpendicular. We'll explain why sometime in the near future here about why you double stud. And then we're going to be coming from this side in 16 on center. We will pre-mark all of our top and bottom plates, and so that they end up matching up at 16 on center. We'll just move this plate together with that plate, and then we'll just mark everything off. We're going to start again our window from the first 16 on center stud, and then work 48 inches this way, and then cut out all the lumber for our top and our bottom supports above the window. We'll talk about that also in detail here. And then on the far side of the window, once we get past that 48 and that outside stud, we'll start 16 inches again on center and walk all the way that way. Now, let's go ahead and do this. Again, it's not gonna be perfect, and I'm doing this one-handed while holding the phone, and my wife is not here right now to give me a hand, but let's see if we can get this to work. I've got a cheapy tape measure and it might slip off there, but let's see if we come close to 10 feet. Not gonna be perfect again. Oh, look at that. I got almost all the way down there. Let's try this again. Again, I've got, this is just a inexpensive Harbor Freight tape measure. I actually have a nice tape measure coming that will work better here. We'll give this one more shot, and if not, then we're just going to cut you in instead of making you watch me try to stretch this out 10 feet. All right, let's see. Look at that. Again, we push this up. That'll be right on 10 feet. So 3 inches for the top and bottom plate. Cut off the studs. Gives me 10 feet for the most part even. Let's go ahead now and start cutting out some of our, or getting ready the rest of our studs that aren't part of the window system. And then when we come back together, we'll start doing some. I now have my corner studs, my first 16 corner studs, first 16. Now we're going to start our window off of this stud. Let me go ahead and flip you around and show you the plans and what we're doing and why we're doing it. The bottom of our window is going to be at 40 inches tall. Now I know that that's not standard, but that's okay. Against this area, as I said before, is going to be a shelf where our seed starts are going to be at. And that's going to sit on a 36-inch high standard countertop height shelf. And I want to make sure that I leave myself some space between the top of that 36 inches and the bottom of the window to do anything in that 4-inch space I want. If I end up putting a backsplash on, running electrical that comes out there, whatever I want to make sure that I provide myself the space right there to do that. And so in order to get my 40 inches from the top and to get my 40-inch measurement here, with this board coming across, remember that board's going to sit this way. We also have the bottom plate. So this is going to be 48 inches because that's my my rough-in width of my window, and 36 high. But since this is going to be at 40 inches, I have to subtract 1.5 inches here, 1.5 inches here for a total of 3 inches. That will give me my inside support at 37 inches. So I'm going to need a 37 inch there, a 37 inch there, and potentially 2 37 inches right here, close to my 16 on centers. So we're going to go ahead and get that 48 inch cut. We're going to get my 37s cut, my 437s cut, and we'll get that all assembled and put back together again. Now, I should be able to do the rest of the math this way, but here's what I like to do. I'm just going to end up doing 36, 36, and then I'm going to have my, I'll have my then measurement for here and here after I get my cross brace here. Again, let's go ahead and let's make some cuts. Again, I'm going to ask you to excuse the wind. My sound and my earbuds aren't working to kind of control this right now, so I'm having to do it just right off the speaker from the phone. But what we have here is now our rough layout. Obviously, this is not square. However, the window is all framed in. All my studs here. Oh, you know what? I got to make one more, or at least two more right there. I just realized that. I'm glad I filmed this. I'll go back and do that. The rest of my 16 on center studs. And so when this is all done, and I get these last two cuts done up here, I'm going to label all of these because I have to then take all of this, take it apart, put it underneath the tarp, because tonight and tomorrow we're supposed to be getting rain. And then after the rain goes through, hopefully towards the end of the week, I'll be able to pull all of this out, put it on top of a flat level surface, that up there, square it up, level it up, and then take my air nailer and get it all assembled. So the next time that you see me will be taking all of this and assembling it on there and getting ready to put it all together. A real quick interlude. Yesterday got miserable hot and everything seemed to just be working down and against me. So we packed up, we took a break, and now we're gonna get back into finishing and raising this wall. Something that we have to do this morning is this before it gets too hot and before we get things raised. This header board, while it is two 2x4s smushed together, it still comes out a ½ inch short because the width of a board is 3.5 inches. And if you remember, the side dimension or the 2-inch dimension is really only 1.5. So that gives me 3 inches, which gives me a ½ inch short of my wall. So what we have to do is we have to take a piece of 1/2 inch ply, stick it in between, screw and or nail those together, and then we'll have our header boards, and then we can get our I don't think the proper word is jack stud, but we have to give our cripples here, our jack studs, you know the right term for those who are actual carpenters, before we get those in here. So we're gonna go ahead and cut a piece for this and get this put together, then get this put in, nailed all together, get our side supports put in, and then we're going to put some cleats down the front, square up a line for our stud wall, raise this up, and because it's just my wife and I, we want to make sure that the wall doesn't fall forward. That's what those cleats are going to be for, and we'll get that wall up, we'll get it supported, and then we'll get on to the next step. So my 1/2 inch piece is cut. It's sandwiched between the two boards. I'm gonna go ahead and nail that all together and then get my supports nailed in, my studs nailed in. I'll get my sideboards here nailed in, and we'll double check, and then we'll get this thing ready to be raised. Well, very quickly, let me tell you what we're going to do and how I've prepped for it. We're going to lift this wall, just my wife and I. Now, my wife is an incredibly hard worker. She's not necessarily strong. I mean, she's strong, but she's not strong like me. So anyway, without trying to sound too sexist, I've done a number of things to help us out and get this ready since it's just the two of us. First, I've put 2 cleats on the front, so as we tip this wall up, it provides us stop blocks in order to keep the front edge of this wall from sliding over and off the front of the shed. We've already marked a line with another 12-foot 2x4, and we know exactly where to put this bottom plate. I have also gone ahead and attached our supports with 1 screw in the side, so we've got a pivot point. So as we lift this wall, these will fall down. One of us will hold the wall up and level it off, while the other then comes back with a drill and a screw and goes ahead and at least gets some stability on both sides of that wall. We'll also nail down this bottom plate, and then we'll come back and we'll put on more supports so it gives it stability this way as well as this way. All right, let's go ahead and get my wife and let's get this done. All righty, we're gonna walk this wall up. You know how we're gonna do that, right?
Yes.
Get underneath it. Yeah, lift it.
And you have that really high up there, don't you?
Yep.